Right now, you are probably sitting down. You are probably indoors. You are probably looking at a screen. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you have the faint feeling that you should be doing something more productive. That feeling has a name. Researchers call it time anxiety, the sense that you are wasting the hours you have been given. But here is the thing, that feeling is brand new. It is a product of clocks and calendars and the Industrial Revolution and the 40-hour work week. For 99% of human history, no one felt it, not once. Because what ancient humans actually did all day is so different from what you imagine that it reframes everything you think you know about productivity, laziness, and the purpose of a human life. You probably picture them running, hunting mammoths across frozen tundra, chasing prey until their legs gave out, being chased in return, surviving by the skin of their teeth, every waking hour a battle against starvation and predators and the cold. That picture is almost entirely wrong. In 2017, anthropologist Herman Pontzer published a landmark study in the journal Current Biology comparing the daily energy expenditure of the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, with the energy expenditure of modern Westerners. What he found shocked the scientific community. The Hadza, who live roughly the way your ancestors lived for hundreds of thousands of years, do not burn significantly more calories per day than a sedentary office worker in Chicago or London. The difference is negligible. They are not running all day, they are not exhausted from dawn to dusk, and they are not anxious about the hours slipping away. So what are they actually doing? Resting. Not because they are lazy, not because the modern world has made us soft by comparison, but because rest, for your ancient brain and body, is a survival strategy. It is not the absence of productivity, it is productivity itself. Here is what a typical day looked like for your ancestors, or not the ones who built the pyramids, but the ones who came before agriculture, before cities, before the concept of a job, the ones who lived in small mobile bands of roughly 20 to 50 people moving through a landscape they knew better than you know your own neighborhood. They woke up when the sun rose, not to an alarm, not with a to-do list already forming behind their eyes. They woke up because the light changed and their bodies, tuned over millions of years of evolution, responded. The morning was for foraging, but not the frantic, desperate scramble you might imagine. Primatologist Richard Wrangham, in his book Catching Fire, describes foraging among early humans as something closer to a leisurely walk. Your ancestors knew their territory. They knew where the tubers grew. They knew which trees bore fruit at which time of year. The knowledge was not in a book or on a screen. It was in their bodies, passed down through years of watching and doing. A few hours of foraging in the morning could yield enough food for the entire day, sometimes less than that. Then they came back to camp. And here is where your brain starts to misfire, because what came next was not more work. It was hours of sitting together, talking, grooming, playing, napping in the shade, watching the children, telling stories. Anthropologist Marshall Sahlins called this the original affluent society, not affluent in the way you use the word, not wealthy with possessions or status or square footage. Affluent in time. Affluent in the thing that modern life has made so scarce that people pay consultants to help them find it. Your ancestors had leisure, and they had it in abundance. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer societies consistently show the same thing. The Kung San people of the Kalahari, documented extensively by anthropologist Richard Lee in the 1960s, worked an average of 12 to 19 hours per week to meet all of their nutritional needs. 12 to 19 hours. You probably spend more time than that commuting. They spent the rest of the time doing what the modern world calls nothing, but what your nervous system, if it is honest, is starving for. They talked endlessly. Gossip, which sounds trivial, was actually one of the primary technologies of social cohesion in early human groups. Evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar has argued that language itself may have evolved not primarily for hunting coordination or tool instruction, but for the exchange of social information: who is trustworthy, who is generous, who is dangerous. Gossip was not a distraction from the real work of being human. It was the real work. It was how your ancestors built the relationships that kept them alive when the food ran short or the predator came too close. They laughed. Hunter-gatherer societies are, by most accounts, extraordinarily funny. Humor is not a luxury your brain evolved for downtime. It is a social bonding mechanism, a way of diffusing tension, a signal of intelligence and safety. When you laugh at something, you are doing something your ancestors did in exactly the same way, around a fire that has long since gone cold. They played. Adults, not just children. The line between work and play in hunter-gatherer life is almost non-existent. Throwing a spear is practice and game and competition and ritual all at once. Tracking an animal is a puzzle. Building a shelter is a creative act. The modern separation of labor from enjoyment, the idea that what you do to survive cannot also be what you love to do, is one of the stranger inventions of the last 10,000 years. And then there was the fire every evening. Your ancestors gathered around it. This is not a metaphor. Anthropologist Polly Wiessner spent years documenting the difference between daytime conversation and nighttime conversation in Kalahari hunter-gatherer camps. During the day, talk was mostly practical, resource-related, complaint-based, but at night, around the fire, something shifted. Around 80% of nighttime conversation was devoted to stories, not instructions, not logistics, stories, narratives about people who were not present, about events in the past, about beings who may never have existed at all, fiction, myth. The original entertainment industry running every night for 100,000 years before anyone thought to write anything down. Wiessner believes this is where the modern human mind was shaped. The firelight extended the day past sunset, and in doing so, extended the social world past the boundaries of what was directly visible and immediately useful. Sitting around a fire, listening to a story, your brain lit up the same regions it uses when experiencing something directly. You practiced empathy, you rehearsed danger, you built a shared map of the world that your whole group could navigate together. You were not wasting time, you were becoming human. Now consider what you do in the evening. You sit down, usually alone or in a small group. You look at a light source, stories pass through it. Your brain lights up in the familiar ways. You feel sometimes a strange guilt about it. The sense that you should be doing something more productive, that the hours are slipping through your fingers, that rest is a problem to be solved rather than a reward to be claimed. That guilt is not ancient. It is very, very new. It arrived with the printing press and the factory whistle, and the culture that decided your worth is measured by your output. Your ancestors did not feel it. They could not have conceived of it. To them, the evening was not wasted time. It was the point. The question Pontzer's research, Sahlins' fieldwork, and Wiessner's observations circle without ever quite landing on is this: which version of the day is the aberration? The ancient one, stretched long with rest and story and laughter and talk, or the modern one sliced into billable units, measured against a productivity score, haunted by the feeling that there is always something more you should have done? Your body already has an answer. It gives it to you every evening when the light changes and something old inside you reaches for the fire that is no longer there. Right now, you are probably sitting down. And maybe for the first time you understand that your ancestors would not have found that strange at all.